A radical is any expression with a square root or a cubed root. And this is the radical symbol. So let's list the first 20 perfect squares. I'll start. The first perfect square is 1, 4, 9, 16. Can y'all give me the rest? Good. What are you guys doing to get these numbers? You're squaring what? So you did 1 squared to get 1. You did 2 squared to get 4. 3 squared to get 9. 4 squared to get 16, right? These are called perfect squares. Okay, what's my next perfect square? 100. What's after 100? 121. One more. 144. Okay, I'm going to pause here. I'm going to let you guys continue. These are the first 12 perfect squares. Give me the other 8 so that we can end at 20. 20 squared is 400. So give me the other ones. So here are my perfect squares. You're going to have two cases. You're going to have cases where you have a perfect square. So for example, what's the square root of 81? 9. You're going to have some cases where you do not have a perfect square. So we're going to break the radical down using the largest perfect square. So for example, let's break down 18. What are two numbers that multiply to 18? Good, 9 and 2. Do you guys know what the square root of 9 is? So this is just 3 square roots of 2. That's how we're going to break these down. For example, let's do 50. What two numbers multiply to 50? Okay, 5 and 10 works. Let's do a different one though. Can y'all give me another one? Yeah, let's do that one because I know the square root of 25. That's just 5. So your answer will be 5 square roots of 2. That's how you would break these down. So this example, what's the square root of 49? This one? 15. Okay. What about this one? What's the square root of 144? 12. And then we got to multiply it by a 2. Yep, 24. So that's that answer. Let me give you another one like that. What if I had 5 and then square root of 36? What's the square root of 36? So that becomes 5 times 6, which is 30. Okay, let's try this one. What's the square root of 36? And what's the square root of 121? So that's your answer. All right, let's try another one. Okay, so let's break this one down. What's 578? What can this be broken down as? Maybe 2 times something? 289, thank you. Was 289 a part of your list? Yes? Okay, so what's the square root of 289? 17? Okay, so guys, look. I have a 3 on the outside. The square root of 289 is just 17. And then you have the square root of 2. We couldn't break down the square root of 2. 3 times 17 is 51. So this is your answer. Now, maybe when you were in Algebra 1, your teacher taught you this method. Oh, this is a 7. I'll do the same problem. We broke this down into 2 times 289, and we broke 289 into 17 times 17. Can we break 17 down anymore? Okay, so what I'm going to do is all my broken down smallest numbers will go underneath the square root symbol. We still have a 3 on the outside. Okay, if you tried this, 2 times 17 times 17 is still 578. All we're doing is just expanding it, making it tiny. breaking it into small pieces. Okay, so what you guys would do after this step is whenever you have a pair, cross it out and then write one of them outside. So then you'll get 17 times 3 is 51, and you get square root of 2. Do you guys remember this method? Okay, great. All right, let's do another one. Actually, that's it. Okay, so I'm going to have you guys do a little bit more example problems. I'm going to let you guys practice this, and then we'll move on. Okay, so what are two numbers that can multiply to 112? 2 and 56? Okay, let's break down the 56. 7 and 8. You can do 7 and 8, or what else could you do if you don't want to do 7 and 8? Okay, we'll do 2 and 28. Let's break down 28. Okay, let's break down 14. 2 and 7. Okay, so the smallest parts, you have 2, 2, 2, and 2. That will go in here. And you have a 7. So here's a pair, cross it out. Here's a pair, cross it out. So the outside you have a 4, the inside you have a 7. Any other ones you'd like me to do on the board? Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the notes. So now that we have reviewed how to simplify radicals, we're going to move on to learning how to solve using the square root property. So if you can move around a quadratic equation and write it in this format, then we can use the square root property. So notice, if I take the square root of this side, that cancels out, and you'll get the square root of n. So that means x would be equal to the square root of n. Now, we're going to put a little plus and minus sign, and I'll explain that in a moment. Okay. What number squared is 9? 3. So you're saying x is 3. What else could it be? -3, because isn't -3 times -3 also 9? Okay, so that means when you do the square root and the square root of 9, you're going to get a +3 and also a -3. So sometimes they just combine it like this. Instead of writing 3 comma -3, they write it like this. That's the shorthand. So there's always two answers. What number squared will give you 16? 4 and -4. Because 4 times 4 is 16, and -4 times -4 is also 16. Okay? So there's two answers. So if you do the square root, the square root of 16, you're going to do 4 and a -4. Okay? Two answers. All right, so let's go ahead and start solving these. First, you're going to rewrite the equation so that it looks like this. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do this first example. We want it to look like this. X squared equals a number. So what should I do first? Yep, we're going to subtract 8. So I get 7x squared equals 7. Okay, what do I do now? Good, divide by 7. So I have x squared equals 1. Now I'm in this format. All right, now let's look at what we're going to do. So I rewrote the equation. It looks like that now. Now I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So we're going to go ahead and square root both sides. Square root this side, square root cancels with the squared, and square root this side. So x is equal to, what are my answers going to be? 1 and -1. 1 times 1 will give you this 1, and -1 times -1 will give you this 1. So you have two answers. Now, people like to make it simpler. by just writing a positive 1 and a negative 1. So they'll write it like that sometimes. These mean the exact same thing. Let's try another problem. Let's do this one. Okay, what should I do first? We can't distribute this because there's a squared right here.
Yeah, do the square root.
We can't do the square root yet.
Oh, divide by.
Yes, we have to divide by -2. Divide by -2. So now I have x plus 7 squared equals 20. Now what can I do? Yeah, now we can square root. So I'm going to square root this side and square root this side. The square root cancels out with the squared. So now I have x plus 7 equals the square root of 20. And remember, we're going to have a plus and a minus square root of 20. Now what do? I want x by itself. Yep, we're going to subtract 7. So subtract 7, subtract 7. So guys, this is my answer. X equals plus or minus the square root of 20, and then a -7. Now, before I box my answer, didn't I just teach you guys how to reduce these square roots? Let's reduce this. What are two numbers that multiply to 20? Good, 5 and 4. Do you know the square roots of these? 2, square root of 4 is 2, so this is 2 with the square root of 5. If you want to do it the other way, you know this is 5 and 4. This can be 2 and 2. So you'll have 2 times 2 times 5. That's a pair. Put it out. So you get the same thing. Okay, so my answer is plus or minus 2 square roots of 5 minus 7. This is your simplified answer. Let me highlight what we just simplified. We simplified square root of 20 into 2 square roots of 5. All right, I want you guys to try number 22. Okay, so first, you square root both sides. I'm left with x plus 2 equals, what's the square root of 49? Yes, it can also be a -7. So I'm going to put plus 7 or a -7. And then from here, you subtract 2. Okay, so let's look at what my answer would be. First, let's look at the positive 7. What's 7 minus 2? 5. Good. Now let's look at if it was a -7. So let me circle that one. What's -7 minus 2? So those are your answers, -9 and 5. So if you wrote this as your solution set, this is -9 and 5.
Write it like that?
Yep, write it like this. This is how we wrote our solutions the other day. You could also write it like this, -1, 1. Okay. So I'm going to let you guys practice this for a bit.